We often think of progress as a ladder, where each generation must be greater and more capable than the last. But what if that's not the case? This is just one of many fascinating questions explored by the celebrated author and thinker Umberto Eco in his book On the Shoulders of Giants. Now, this book isn't a single story with a beginning and an end. It's a rich collection of essays on diverse and often disconnected topics, like a journey through the many rooms of Umberto Eco's intellectual mansion. We'll open the door to just a few of these rooms, starting with the very metaphor that gives the collection its title. It's the idea that we, as dwarves, can see further than the giants who came before us, despite us not being as tall, but simply because we are lifted by their immense stature. This idea of cumulative progress, where we build upon the past, is a recurring theme. But in one of his explorations, Umberto Eco delves into the conflict inherent in this process. Throughout history, progress has often been defined by rebellion, the new against the old. Each generation feels the need to define itself in opposition to the one that came before it. You can see it as a recurring drama, the sons rising up against the fathers. But this rebellion often leads to a paradoxical outcome. In their quest to forge a new path, the sons don't just create something entirely from scratch. Instead, they often leapfrog their fathers entirely and land in the arms of their grandfathers. This results in a return to an even older tradition, a forgotten classicism, a past that is even older than the old. However, Umberto Eco suggests that since the late 1960s, something has shifted. Perhaps it's the advent of modern technology, the instant accessibility of information. But the once clear lines between these generations have started to blur. The old and the new are no longer locked in this cyclical battle. Instead, they seem to be converging, coexisting in a way that was previously unimaginable. Shifting gears, as Umberto Eco so often does in his collection, we move from the public drama of progress to a more intimate and philosophical puzzle he explores. What is beauty? A deceptively simple answer is offered. Beauty is whatever people have called beautiful. While this might sound circular, it points to a deeper truth that beauty is a social consensus that evolves over time. Yet, he notes that across different cultures and historical periods, certain characteristics tend to reappear: proportion, brightness, a sense of completeness. But perhaps the most insightful distinction author makes is between beauty and goodness. We feel a personal loss if we lack something good, like justice. But beauty is different. We can admire a beautiful sunset or a stunning work of art without any desire to possess it. It is a selfless, detached form of pleasure. Another distinct line of thought Umberto Eco pursues in his essays leads us into the dizzying realm of the absolute and the relative. He touches upon the paradox that if we are part of an absolute system, we can never truly know it or define it from the inside. Reflecting on this, one is reminded of a powerful, independent parallel from the world of mathematics: Gödel's Incompleteness theorems. Gödel proved that any formal system complex enough to describe basic arithmetic faces a fundamental choice. It can be consistent, but unable to prove all its own truths, or it can be complete, but riddled with paradoxes. It cannot be both. This idea that any system is inherently limited reinforces the spirit of Umberto Eco's point. We are always inside a framework we cannot fully describe. On this same topic of the absolute, he makes another separate observation: that those who think everything is allowed are not those who think that God is dead, but rather those who think that they are God. A sharp critique of a certain kind of intellectual hubris. Finally, in a brilliant analysis of storytelling itself, Umberto Eco presents us with a delightfully counterintuitive idea found within the collection: the perfection of the imperfect. He looks at enduring classics like The Count of Monte Cristo and Casablanca and argues that their success is not in spite of their flaws, but because of them. These are not perfectly polished, seamless works of art. They are messy, sprawling, and at times even contradictory. But it is in these very imperfections, these rough edges and happy accidents, that their true genius lies. They are a testament to the fact that creativity is not always a neat and tidy process. Sometimes, the most beautiful and enduring things are born out of chaos. And so we close the door on these few rooms of thought, knowing full well we've only glanced at the vast architecture of Umberto Eco's mind. To wander through his essays is to be reminded of the sheer joy of intellectual curiosity, the breadth of his scope, from medieval history to modern cinema, from beauty to paradox, is something to be admired. And in the end, it is that same spirit of wide-ranging exploration that we ultimately strive for here.